I have stood inside that hall more than 200 times. 200 mornings of polished boots and aching knees. Only once did I watch a princess reach up, unpin the medal from her own chest, and give it away in front of 400 people. I still don't think she planned it. That's the part nobody believes. My name is Tom Faraday. Back then I was 24, second year with the Queen's Own at Kingsmere Palace. If you've seen the photographs of the guards at the North Gate, the bearskins, the red tunics, the boys who don't blink, I was one of those boys. My job was simple: stand, watch, say nothing, be furniture that breathes. It was the last Thursday of October. I remember because the rain had been falling since Tuesday and hadn't stopped to think about it once. The investiture was supposed to be outdoors in the East Garden. There's a lawn there that they cut in stripes, and they set up white chairs, and there's a little band that plays things nobody knows the names of. That was the plan. Then the storm came in off the water and the plan drowned. So they moved it into the Marble Room. You have to understand what that means. The Marble Room holds maybe 200 comfortably. That morning they pushed 400 in, chairs pressed knee to knee, wet wool coats steaming in the heat of the chandeliers. The whole place smelled like rain and old stone and somebody's rose perfume gone sharp. I was posted at the left door near the front, close enough to see the faces. I remember an old woman with her handbag in her lap like it was a cat. I remember a little boy, maybe 6, in a paper crown that had gone soft and drooped over one ear. His mother kept trying to take it off him. He kept putting it back. Outside the tall windows you could hear the crowd at the gates. Tourists, hundreds of them even in that weather. Umbrellas going up and down like something breathing. Somebody's dog barking. The bass thump of a coach engine on the road. Inside, the band got about 4 bars into something and then stopped, because the conductor realized there was no room for the cellos. That's the sort of morning it was. Everything slightly wrong, everything slightly too close. Then the doors opened at the far end. Princess Rosalind came in first. She was 73 that year and she walked like she was late for something better. Gray hair pinned back hard. No smile for the cameras. She has never smiled for a camera in her life, and I respect her enormously for it. Navy coat, plain, and on her left breast, small and dull silver, the heart. The Order of the Silver Heart, highest personal honor in the realm. Not a job title, not a courtesy thing you get for being born. It's given for one act. 1. Her mother pinned it on her 40 years earlier, and every child in this country learns why in school. And I won't insult you by pretending it's dramatic. She went back into a burning stable for a boy nobody could find. She had rope burns on both hands for a year. She never once talked about it publicly. 15 paces behind her came Duchess Alois of Ashbury. She was new, married in 18 months, still learning where to stand. Pale gray coat, gloves, hair done properly. She had that careful look that new ones get, the one that says I am counting the seconds until I am allowed to be nervous somewhere private. She caught my eye as she passed, nodded just slightly. Nobody nods at the furniture. The ceremony started the way they always start. A man with a list and a voice built for reading lists. Name, reason, step forward, bow, medal, handshake, 3 seconds of conversation nobody in the room can hear. Step back. Applause that lasts exactly as long as it's supposed to. It's beautiful and it's boring, and both of those things are the point. 11 names went by. A nurse, a lifeboat crew, all 4 of them together, awkward as schoolboys. A woman who'd spent 30 years teaching deaf children and cried so hard she couldn't speak, and Princess Rosalind just stood there and waited for her, patient as a wall until she could. Then the man with the list said, Corporal Ansel Wick. And the room changed temperature. He was 94. I'd seen him come in an hour earlier, in a wheelchair, with a grandson pushing him and a granddaughter carrying his coat. His medals were already on his chest, the old ones, from the campaign that took his left leg below the knee and both of his brothers entirely. They'd put his chair at the end of the front row. There was a little ramp laid down over the step. Everything had been thought about. Except that Corporal Wick had not been consulted. Because when his name was called, that old man put both hands on the arms of his chair, and he pushed. The room went so quiet I could hear the rain. His grandson moved to help him. Wick shook his head, not rudely, just no. He got halfway up. His arms were shaking, 94 years of a body and every one of them showing. He got to a sort of half-crouch, and he stopped there, and he couldn't go up and he couldn't sit down. I want to be honest with you about what a room does in that moment. It does nothing. That's what it does. 400 people, and every single one of them was thinking somebody should help him, and every single one of them was also thinking, but it isn't my place. The cameras kept clicking. That's the sound I remember most. That soft insect clicking while an old man hung there in the middle of the floor. My rifle, my knees, my orders, I don't move. I do not move. I have never wanted to move so badly in my life. And then there was a sound of shoes on marble. Duchess Alois had come off the dais. She wasn't supposed to. She was supposed to stand at the side and be photographed. Instead, she crossed 12 feet of open floor in front of 400 people, and she went down. Not a curtsy. Down, both knees, on wet marble in a pale gray coat that would never be the same again. She took his hands, both of them, the way you take somebody's hands when you're not performing, and she looked up at him and she said something. Quietly, not for the room. I was 8 feet away. I heard it. She said, "Sit down, Corporal. Let me look up at you instead." And he sat. And he started to cry. Not gently. That awful undignified crying that old soldiers do about once in a lifetime, with his mouth open and no sound coming out of it, and his granddaughter's hand over her face, and Alois still kneeling there in the wet, holding both his hands, not looking away from him, not once, not even when the shutters started going like rain on a roof. Somebody in the fourth row said out loud, "Oh." And then nothing. Nobody knew what came next. There is no protocol for this. There is no page in the book. Which is when Princess Rosalind stepped out of line. She walked down off the dais. She didn't hurry. She never hurries. She came across that floor and the whole room leaned back from her without moving an inch. The way you do when weather arrives. She stopped beside them. She looked down at Corporal Wick, sitting, wrecked, holding onto a stranger's hands like a man holding a rail in a storm. She pinned his medal on him herself while he sat. Steady hands. Took her about 6 seconds. Then she stood back and did something I will be telling people about when I am 94 myself. She reached up to her own left breast, and she unpinned the silver heart. You could hear it. That's how quiet it had gone. The tiny metal click of a clasp coming open. Her private secretary took half a step forward and stopped, because there was absolutely nothing he could do. Rosalind turned to Alois, still kneeling, coat ruined, gloves gray with floor water, face gone completely white because she had just realized what was happening, and she pinned it on her. Then she bent down. Old back, bad hip, 73 years old, and she bent right down so their faces were level. And she said, and I heard this too, and I have never repeated it wrong, not once. I was given this for running into a fire. Nobody tells you the harder thing is walking slowly across a room. She straightened up. She patted Alois once on the shoulder briskly, like a woman ending a conversation about the weather. She said, "Get up, girl. Your knees will hate you at my age." The little boy in the paper crown started clapping first. I want you to know that. Not the dignitaries, not the press. A 6-year-old with a soggy paper crown, standing on his chair, clapping with his whole arms because he could feel that something good had happened even if he couldn't have told you what. And then the room went. 400 people all at once, and it wasn't polite applause, it was the other kind, the kind that has shouting in it. The lifeboat crew were on their feet whistling. The teacher who'd cried was crying again. Somebody's chair went over backwards. Corporal Ansel Wick sat in the middle of it with 2 medals on his chest and both hands still held by a duchess with a wrecked coat, and he laughed. Old, cracked, astonished laughter. I stood at my post and I did not move a muscle, and I felt the tears come down my face like a fool, and my sergeant saw, and he never said a word about it. Not then. Not in 30 years. Afterwards in the corridor, I heard a journalist ask Princess Rosalind why. She didn't stop walking, she said. It was never mine. I was only carrying it about until somebody deserved it. That was all. She went out into the rain with no umbrella, because of course she did. Alois wore the silver heart to the funeral of Corporal Ansel Wick, 3 years later on a cold morning with about 9 people present. She stood at the back. She didn't speak. She was photographed only once from a distance by someone who wasn't supposed to be there. I've thought about that Thursday for most of my life now. The storm that moved a ceremony indoors, the chairs too close together, the clicking cameras and the man who could not stand. And this is what I've decided, for whatever it's worth, from an old guardsman with bad knees. We give medals for the running, for the fire, for the burning stable, for the loud, brave seconds when a person has no time to be afraid. But the honor that matters, the real one, the one that gets handed down, that goes to whoever is willing to kneel down on a cold, wet floor in front of everybody, and hold on, and stay there. Rosalind knew that. She'd known it for 40 years. She was just waiting for somebody worth giving it to.